So we are going to start a series on living with the seven habit, and hundreds of people, thousands of people across the world, they send success stories to Dr. Stephen Covey, that how they transform their life. And they Dr. Stephen Covey, he picked hundreds of stories, the key stories, and put in a book form. And that book is called Living the Seven Habit. So, and today I'm specifically going to learn and read from Dr. Stephen Covey's answer when somebody asked him in his life about how he has learned from Seven Habits after 10 years of publishing book, because Stephen Covey was a great evolving mind as well. So he was always have a learning mindset, and then he used to share with other audience about any new key things he used to learn. So that's why I pick from one of the great question asked by someone, that the question is, what have you learned about the seven habits since the book's publication? So that's the author Stephen Covey is going to answer, and he counted 10 points, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 10 points. So this episode, this section, we will only learn and read 5 points. Why he thinks seven habits are important, and what he has learned since its publication, after 10 years of first publication. So we are going to learn five key things. So I hope it resonates and sounds good for you. And we will learn what uh, author himself is telling us about how he has learned something significant, which he shared in the book, and I'm sharing it on behalf of you. So there are 10 lessons, and like I said, we are going to only learn five key lessons from Dr. Stephen Covey about seven habits, right? So the lesson number one, I have my dedicated audience. They always give a great reading for only themselves, and not only for themselves, but also people who are with me uh, on the live streaming as well. So let's go for the lesson one. What he has explained about seven habits learning, enhanced learning. Uh, I would suggest, if you want to have a great experience of this class or session, you can note some of the key quotations, key points, a key learning on a notebook, digitally or maybe manually. So you can open your notes and have a pencil or Apple Pencil or any notes, so that you can have a great learning. Because many people, when they watch or listen some recording or live streaming, there are many key things which resonates them, but they don't uh, implement in their life because of other urgency or other important things comes, and they become distract, and that learning only left in the mind, which also disappear after maybe couple of days, and then it's no use. So if you want to really learn, I recommend you note down the key things on a piece of paper or on your digital notebook, and that's my suggestion for you. That's how I learn as well. When I watch something or I listen something, I make little key points as well. Because when we learn, and when my let's say uh, I'm learning, so if I'm noting down from my hand as well, so my uh, physically effort also include my learning as well, not only mental. So my body includes as well, along with my mind, and my spirit is also. And if I'm passionate, so my heart will also connect. So when we are learning, if our body, mind, heart, spirit, our passion, our physical intelligence, our spirit, and our emotional intelligence all combine together to learn something, it give you a great learning and will remain with you for long term. And if you are applying in your life, then it's become your asset. So that's my in starting some of the suggestion. So let's go and learn from lesson number one, what author Stephen Covey said about seven habits. So I would request Jenny if she can read. I will try to louder the voice because Facebook audience can listen the reading from my microphone.
I was muted. Okay. Lesson number one: I have learned or had reinforced many things. I'll briefly mention 10 of them. The importance of understanding the difference between principles and values. Principles are natural laws that are external to us and that ultimately control the consequences of our actions. Values are internal and subjective and represent what we feel strongest about, what guides our behavior. Hopefully, we will come to value principles so that we can get the results we want now in a way that enables us to get even greater results in the future, which is how I define effectiveness. Everyone has values, even criminal gangs have values. Values govern people's behavior, but principles govern the consequences of those behaviors. Principles are independent of us. They operate regardless of our awareness of them, acceptance of them, liking of them, belief in them, or obedience to them. I have come to believe that humility is the mother of all virtues. Humility says that we are not in control, principles are in control. Therefore, we submit ourselves to principles. Pride says that we are in control, and since our values govern our behavior, we can simply live life our way. We may do so, but the consequences of our behavior flow from the principles, not from our values. Therefore, we should value principles.
Excellent reading. Thank you so much. So, in this key learning lesson number one, the Stephen Covey actually explained couple of key things which he already mentioned in the Seven Habits, uh, in the beginning chapters, Inside Out approach chapter. If you are familiar with the book, and he mentioned about what is the importance of principles and values, and how the values are different from principle and which are greater, and why. And he said that the values b- lies within ourselves, within myself, and the principle lies outside myself. And principle does not change, but values in my side, in myself, can change. So today I may have a different values. Tomorrow or after 1 year, I will believing on different values. However, the principle, which are natural principle, which are a God-given principle, which exist forever in this entire universe, they live outside our world and they remain as it is. They remain forever. So Stephen Covey say that he has learned that we need to believe on value principle, that principle are always a greater than values. Even he said the criminals or people who commit crimes or do illegal and inhu- um, in humanistic activities as well, they also have values, but obviously that these values are not supposed to follow. Only our behavior must be out of consequence of principle, because principle never change. So we need to live by principle based life rather than social mirrors or society driven trends. Like nowadays people follow what other people are doing, what other people are saying to me about myself. I am more concerned about them. I hear them more than actually what the principle about that specific thing is telling me. So we are unaware about principle, such as the principle of integrity, principle of love, principle of harvest, principle of humility, courage. So they all are principle, the principle of gravity, the principle like a law of attractions. So there are also laws or principle are more or less same thing, because they are naturally and lies in this planet forever. And that's why he's saying that the humility is the mother of all virtues. The seven habit actually inculcate you, fuel you uh, a higher degree of humility, because you are going to surrender yourself to the principles, and you are going to transform your life through different principle mentioned in seven habits. So therefore you will have a outcome to get humility, down to earth approach as well. Have you seen that many arrogant people, or many people with extreme pride, they don't follow anything, they don't like principles, because they believe they have their own values, their own attitude, which is uh, borrowed from the society, and therefore they are not really truly in peaceful life, as compared to those people who live by principle, who have universal values, and who always value principle. So therefore that's a lesson number one. I in couple of weeks or months ago, I made couple of series of values. So if somebody is more interested, what really courage mean, what the empathy means, what means of integrity, what means of true success. So you can go to my YouTube channel, and there are recordings already. So that's the overall picture of that lesson number one, which Stephen Covey learned from the seven habit, and he is excited to share with us as well. So if you have any question, or you want to share your story, please comment in the section on a Facebook, or you can speak on Zoom as well. I'm happy to listen to you for any concern, or if you want more clarification, I'm happy to give you more explanation within our time frame. So let's go to the lesson number two, which Stephen Covey learned, and people are living with these things as well, and which Stephen Covey was living with these lessons. So, lesson number two, I would request Zara if she can read it for us.
From experiences all over the world with this material, I have come to see the universal nature of the principles undergirding this material. Illustrations and practices may vary and are culturally specific, but the principles are the same. I have found the principles contained in the seven habits in all six major world religions and have actually drawn upon quotations from sacred writings of those religions when teaching in those cultures. I have done this in the Middle East, India, Asia, South America, Europe, North America, and Africa, as well as among Native Americans and other indigenous people. People, men and women alike, face similar problems, have similar needs, and internally resonate with the underlying principles. There is an internal sense of the principle of justice or win win. There is an internal moral sense of the principle of responsibility, of the principle of purpose, of integrity, of respect, of cooperation, of communication, of renewal. These are universal, but practices are not. They are situationally specific. Every culture interprets universal principles in unique ways.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's a great reading. Uh, so, in this lesson, Stephen Covey is telling about the location of seven habits, implications, and implementation across the whole world. And he went and he organized a lot of conferences, seminars, and training session from India to America to Africa and in Middle East. He got a overwhelmed response as well. That's why his company Franklin Covey has over hundreds of offices still all across London, all across the world as well. And he's morely talking about religion and the culture. Religion and the cultures have more influence on us usually because we born and brought up with the influence of our religious surrounding and also the cultural. So whether we learn great things from our culture or religion or negative things from our culture or religion, we we get ourselves nurtured. um, we learn from our parents, teachers, friends, family, media, and different walks of life around where we were brought up. So but he is saying if you still follow the principles of seven habits, they all everywhere exactly with the same capacity, but in a different implementation as well. So he mentioned that, for example, the principle of communication, which are habit number 4, 5, or communication or synergy, the team spirit, or the cooperation and respect, think win-win. These are the principles are also everywhere, but in a different form. So therefore, the seven habits got a very holy and a very sacred respect from all over the world. People were thinking, and many people thinking it's sort of a religious literature because it sounds harmonize with every culture's good things. It is going to harmonize every religious scripture as well. And it's not going to be contradict with any of the cultural strong values or the religious strong values as well. And why it was. So therefore, that was the strength of seven habits because it talks about, it tells you, it reminds you about natural principles. It talks about the natural way of living, and which we unfortunately forgotten, and which our society did not teach us, our teacher did not teach us. And therefore, when seven habits came in a market, then it spread like a fire in the jungle. And therefore, still the seven habit is exactly the same relevant, uh, and it will remain for next 100 years because it based on natural principle which is harmonized with all societies from Asia to Africa and from all religion. He talks about the six religions, main big religions of the world. Uh, that's also support the literature of seven habits as well. I believe that these six major religions are possibly what he meant is a Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, maybe Sikhism, or other possibly mainstream religions as well. So therefore, many people they send a question separately and ask from Stephen Covey. Oh, hi, Stephen. Is the Seven Habits are religious literature? So he talks about this question. He answered this question actually, and in his book Eighth Habit. So I took some of the answer from the Eighth Habit about this. That and the question was asked from Stephen Covey: is this basically religious material? Because it's going to be it matching and harmonized with the religious literature as well. Uh, so what he actually answer that I want to share with you, and let's learn what how does uh, he he answer to the questionnaire. So he tells that the principles definitely have a moral and spiritual foundation, but they are not unique to any particularly religion. I have personally taught them all around the world in the context of different religions and have quoted their different scriptural texts. Principles are truly universal and timeless. I used to be shocked, but I am no longer, to see what happens when you get people anywhere in the world at any level in organization significantly involved in developing their value systems. When the spirit of genuine openness and synergy is present, and when the people are truly informed, all of the selected values become essentially the same. Different words are used, different practices reflecting those values come out, but the underlying sense always deals the four dimensions spoken about throughout this material. The first dimension is the physical or economic dimension, the relationship or the social or emotional dimension, uh, the mental or mental intelligence related, or the talent or development, or the fourth dimension, they talks about spiritual or having to do with both meaning and integrity. So it's a that's why the beauty of the seven literature. He further answer, if you want to have an interesting experience yourself, just study the mission statements of a few organizations that have produced those mission statements of a few organizations. uh, for those mission statement, through involvement and over different words will be used, but you will find they are basically saying the same things, even though they may not be living them. uh, them. So that's he answer about the relevance of the seven habits, and how it uh, we need to understand it's not religious, but it is it has been derived and formulated in the way that it touches with all religion and major cultures of the world as well. So that's why it's a beauty of seven habits. I remember when the Stephen Covey was alive, may God bless him. Uh, he actually his community was full of all cultures related people, all religious people, including all Christians, Muslim, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists, and even atheists. They were part of that community, and the same thing from all across the world as well. Uh, so that's why it's a significant important significance of seven habits, and people are living with seven habits as their foundation of their life as well. So that's I wanted to share with you. So let's go to the third lesson. Stephen Covey learned from the Seven Habits since it's published first time. So I would ask Cynthia if she can read the lesson number three, what Stephen Covey is thinking, that why Seven Habit uh, is so important, and he learned out of Seven Habit himself.
I've come to see the organizational implications of the seven habits, although in the strict technical sense, an organization does not have habits. Its culture has norms or mores or social codes which represent habits. An organization also has established systems, processes, and procedures. These represent habits. In fact, in the last analysis, all behavior is personal. It is individual, even though it often is part of collective behavior in the form of decisions made by management regarding structure and systems, processes, and practices. We have worked with thousands of organizations in most every industry and profession and have found that the basic principles contained in the seven habits apply and define effectiveness in all of them.
Thank you so much. It's a great reading. Thank you. So the lesson number three is about implementation of seven habits in a business circle, and that's why it uh, spread like a fire in a jungle across the world. That I think that 35 million copies have been sold so far uh, for this, and people were considering that this is a book uh, as popular as Bible. So is a business Bible of the organization all the world. And because all or mostly CEOs, founders, they were influenced by this book, and therefore they start to discover themselves first and achieve the private victory, and then they start to have a interpersonal or we call public victory through seven, six, seven, fifth, fourth, fifth, and sixth habit. So therefore, that these uh, literature related to the seven habit principle became part of business world as well, and people start to implement in our organization. I remember when I personally was working in a reputed company in London. I worked there for 5 years as a manager. And when I wanted to improve anything in my company, then I rethink about some of the ideas in seven habits and then implemented in my company, made to relevant with my companies in different department. And then I made a new presentation with the new key thing, and my management and director, they approved it to implement in the company, and my organization started to boom in that section as well. So it was so influential. I mean, because like I said, it was based on natural principle. It is based on our today's need, our personal need or our interpersonal need, or even in our organization. Therefore, uh, Dr. Stephen Covey wrote a new book entirely on the subject of leadership development as a eighth habit. So eighth habit, where it talks about all the personal development, the mainly at the same time it talks about organizational development, how CEO and the founders and directors or key decision makers can implement seven habit as a foundation, and on the top how they can build and manage and achieve the path of greatness, and achieve a great success for their companies or organization. So therefore, that's a great discovery, and we can implement in our business circle as well. Even today, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I implement a lot of key things from the seven habits and from eighth habit ideas, and it's been really successful because I have so much confidence on the key things and practical interpretation of Stephen Covey. So it's a great advantage always I have, even though there are hundreds of thousands of other key books on the same subject. So, but still, I really enjoy the seven habit and eighth habit modern interpretation or modern implications as well. So let's talk about the lesson number four from Stephen Covey, what he learns from for the question he is going to answer. He said the lesson number four he learned: you can teach all the seven habits by starting with any one habit, and you can also teach one habit in a way that leads to teaching the other habit, other six habits. So it's like a hologram in which the whole is contained in the part and the part is contained in the whole. So that's again is the vastness of the seven habits, that if you want to teach your one habit to your friend or your husband or wife or colleague, so it also relevant as it is, and because it will bring the other six as well, or if you start with the other six, then it will come to the single one habit as well. So because all six and seven habits support each other, and it has a chronological uh, successful development as well. Like the habit number one is the root of all seven habit, and when we want to practice habit number two, the habit number one is obvious you will have. When you will going to develop a think win-win principle, it means that you have already achieved private victory. At the same time, you can teach these seven habits individually as a separate principle to your circle as well. So that's the beauty what of the seven habit which Stephen Covey is um, is agree, and he mentioned about. So let's learn the last the lesson of today, and the next five lesson we will learn continue the next Sunday. So lesson number five, if I request the Jenny, if she can read it for us, please.
Even though the seven habits represents an inside out approach, they work most successfully when you start with the outside challenge and then take the inside out approach. In other words, if you're having a relationship challenge, say a breakdown of communication and trust, this will define the nature of the inside out approach you need in order to win the kind of private victory that will make it possible for you to meet the challenge of winning the public victory. This is the reason I often teach habits 4, 5, and 6 before I teach habits 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you very much. It's a great reading. So that's quite interesting. Many people they stumble upon the habit number one, two, three, not directly on these habits, when they have some challenges or issues in in interpersonal relationships, and then they start to need what is a really root cause of that problem, and when they further dig out the problem is that they haven't achieved personally. So they are lacking in habit number one. They were not proactive, they were not organized even enough, and they were not prioritized their thing. Therefore, they have conflict with other people, and they start to follow principle of destruction, sort of like lose lose or lose win, or not to listen other, or leg pulling, or if they are working in a team, in an office, or at home as well. So uh, so there were many people they learn habits in opposite way, and it's just Stephen Covey is saying when he is trying to teach someone, he used to start from habit number 4, 5, 6 first, because that will take you to the habit number 1, 2, 3 is importance. And that's happened with many people, with me as well. When first thing I come across from seven habits, actually I was stuck in issues related to habit number 6, 7, 5, 4, 5, 6 as well. And I had problem with interpersonal problems at my workplace, in my university where I was working, with my professors, and with my colleagues as well. So from there, I found that actually the root cause and the problem which I'm facing is have the solution from the right at the beginning, and that's the habit number one, two, three. But before going to habit one, two, three, I studied in details habit number 4, 5, 6, and then made it strong by discovering myself, uh, to having a private victory after that, and that make me aligned with all habits. So that's a great experience I had personally, and then obviously in later life, it made like a pendulum. Sometime I needed to achieve a private victory, and sometime I was lacking of some public victory. And that's wherever it was lacking, I start to reread and re-implement, uh, uh, implemented in my life. And that made me a very mature and strong figure in my eyes and in my people who are around me. Like now I'm very firm, uh, and I have all six habits in my everyday life in all roles. So that's the significance of seven habits. So if you have any question about six about habit or the things which we learned today, we will continue part two in the next Sunday. And let me know. Otherwise, I will go to the next section, and